Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
The Revival of Lomack. Hello/X/ I'm not well versed in the spoopy, so let me just tell you a story. A few weeks ago I was at the library and I found a book called Imperial Dogmatic Spherical Holes. It disappeared since then, which means who knows what the fuck. What struck me about the book was the obviously amateurish binding, as if it didn't belong there, and there was no library sticker on the spine. It looked like something from a vanity press website. Sure enough, I take it home without checking it out. No sweat because it looks /X/ish. Mostly the book makes no sense other than the introduction, which is about how you're supposed to be high on cough syrup, or the rest of the book doesn't make sense. After the introduction, it's just a bunch of mostly English gibberish plus pictographs and seemingly random squiggles. I forget about it for a few days until later when I'm bored. So I think what the hell and drink about enough syrup for a third plateau trip. I've done DXM before, but I'm no experienced junkie. And crazily enough, the book starts making sense. And even crazier, it claims to be directions to some lost age of wit, man I don't know. And even crazier, the book speaks extensively about the town I live in, and events that have taken place in the last few days, even though I got the book weeks ago. But of course I'm high, so it's just part of the ride to me. Anyway, the book tells me to go to a cave near my house and not read any further until I do, because I need something there for the following pages to make sense to me. I try to read further anyway, but the pages are just blank, although a dark gray color. I decided to go to the cave because YOLO. When I get to the cave, the next pages are no longer gray, but instead detail some kind of African tear dance that I'm supposed to, and I start laughing out loud like a spurg. It says stuff like, wave your arms to the east and repeat this syllable low 3 times and whatever. By now you've predicted that I did it, duh. The syrup feels like it's getting stronger and suddenly I go fully out of it, and now I'm standing in front of a waterfall with a cave behind it. There's a creepy figure standing behind the cave. It looks like a mostly featureless human with bluish-gray skin and a simplistic face, as if it was carved out of stone. At this point, I'm gonna stop trying to set up the drama because I'm a shit writer, but basically what happened was this entity told me his name was Lomack, and that he was a nearly dead ancient being once called a god, and that he found it interesting that a human would bother with him again after all this time. So I stand by the waterfall for what seems like forever and talk to Lomack. I don't really remember seeing his face move, but I can't really remember a voice either. It was more like I could just feel what he was saying to me, and I knew that he was male-ish. Lomack tells me that he's from a time before recorded history, when men were half men and religious ideas were barely even coherent. He says that he has become ignorant of Earth and almost forgot about it until I showed up, and after he picks my brain for what things are like nowadays, he says that he could be considered an early god of magic and sorcerers. Then he asks why I came, and I tell him about the book. He doesn't know who wrote the book and says that he barely knows or cares how it worked, but that if I feel compelled that what I'm experiencing is the truth, then it would be possible to revive him on Earth if I want. So why not? We spend what seems like another eternity by the waterfall, and he supposes that he needs a sigil now. So I make the thing I posted in the OP under his direction. I guess that's the official sigil of Lomack now. He says that he expects nothing from me as his prophet, and having a large mass of followers does not concern him. His mantra the whole time seemed to be expect nothing, and he was generally a really chill, possibly imaginary dude to talk to. Some other things I know about are determined with Lomack. 1. The color of Lomack is blue. 2. Lomack will be known by his sigil, but he is also represented by a blank stone-like face as he was in the early days of half-men, and as he is represented in the lost age of wit. Still don't know what that is, and he only vaguely alluded, 3. The number of Lomack is 5, because a man has 5 fingers, 5 limbs sprout from his trunk, and he is composed of several other 5s. 4. Lomack does not decree, but speaks when it is necessary through his followers who honor him. Trying to wrap this up because I hate reading long posts on image boards and I hate typing them even more when nobody's going to read them. Lomack details to me the specifics to make an altar for him and various other little details that gods apparently care about, although he seems less strict than, say, traditional religious scriptures. I'll post some if anybody cares. Eventually I wake up back at the cave, but the book is gone. I'm still blown as fuck though on the syrup. It felt like I had a moment of clarity while at the waterfall, but now that I'm back to the real world, I'm high again and can't even think straight. I make it back to my house, and a little later draw the sigil on my computer, plus write various things I can remember about the experience, and thus concludes this epic tale of autism. I still haven't made an altar or bought anything to try this out because I'm broke at the moment. So, what was it /X/? Some degenerate's drug adventure, a demon pretending to be a god, an actual forgotten god of ye ancient times, your mother's tulpa. I don't know much about occultism. Does anything of this sound even remotely familiar? I wrote a 10,000-word document that looks like a half-assed story about a bunch of people carrying a bunch of pillars from one side of space to another at one part, some songs, etc. I guess the most germane thing is the altar. To make an altar to Lomack, you make a 5-pointed star with each line as long as a man's forearm in the earth, or more permanently, a raised altar of stone with a height divisible by fingers of 5. I'm guessing it works for grills too. Lomack sacrifices a clay pot smashed on his altar with the fist or stomped, with a piece of human tissue inside it. Then you can apparently speak to Lomack.
Post a song.
I don't know how this is a song, but it says it's a song. Next acquired 1. Black candle was made. 2. Black candle is made. 3. Black candle will be made. 4. Get yourself a gray license. 5. Red line. Stop. Now a coming to. Listen closely. Find with your ears and a does not pass hey label. It was not found for mine or alternate to find out with brothers. Moses Moseki. Overland or wind take it a breed, but again do not pass hey label, understand me. See to you what you see to others, or perhaps to explain forms and cities with that past form. Majestic declares to you several promises. One promise for last, and even now, in the second shield. Forthcoming sigil 4 are anthropolitical, some version about the red line. Vultrum plus vultures of gluttony, hearsay, and constructive cementations Lemon's side. Ashpeel Daln. Whoever found that not to be an exemplar was too furious, hormonally speech. Patterns within the silk revealed in time, though to time no venture. Time is over. Don't know how to begin, so I just will. I did the ritual and talked to Lomack. I will relate the talk we had and what happened as I remember it. It's still fresh, but I don't feel completely clear. I went out twilight, went to a Chinese shop, bought a clay pot, went to a wild patch, picked a stick, drew the lines, sang something, put the pot in the middle of the pentacle, ripped a bit of my lip skin, put it inside, broke the pot, felt something stronger then and began to talk. He answered me quite quickly. I think he likes to talk. So, I said something like, "Hi Lomack, hello." He started to dance. I said, "I'll dance with you." I got up and danced around really crazy, everything spinning the pentacle in the end in the sand pretty nice. Then I asked questions like, "What does it feel to be back?" Great, he said. "What do you think of your new followers?" "Imposters. Not one of them believes in me. So I said I singed a song for you. Saw some vibes." He asked me then to sing another song. I did, similar to the one I was singing when after making the lines. When I finished, he asked, "Is that it? Is that your purpose here in life?" I said no. "Then what are you doing here?" I said I am finishing what I started. I am going through with something I set out to do, fulfilling you or something like you. But truly, I am trying to revive myself. He asked me, why are you trying to revive yourself if you're not dead? I am not dead, but I cannot be integrated in the life I've chosen. I cannot fulfill the things I am supposed to do. He was silent during this whole kind of speech, like telling me to keep on talking. Then I ended, yes, you are right. I am lost. Then he was silent again. He answered almost immediately after I stopped talking and urged me to talk when he finished. Then I just heard go.
If he really appeared, do you know what you'd want to ask him? And tell me the truth, you're scared shitless this might work? You might be one of the few to peek behind the veil of life. If you do it outside, I'd avoid anywhere too public and not have any advanced technology on me. Not saying photographs wouldn't be great, but they're unlikely to actually catch anything and it might interfere. Just a thought.
All good questions. I live back behind an industrial park, so it's a surreal mix of abandoned buildings and woods here. The only tech I'll be bringing with me is a cameraless phone just in case things go horribly wrong. I'm a little scared it might work, but I'm more wary that it won't, and I'll have wandered out into the snow, bit my tongue, and smashed something special to me all for naught. But hey, nothing lost, nothing gained, right? As for what I'll be asking him, I'll do the standard, what is the purpose of life stuff, etc., for you guys, even though I think I have a solid idea of that myself. I'm more interested in what he is and where he comes from, and if there are others like him. Also interested in humanity's untapped potential as well. I won't be doing this until late at night and early morning. I might do it at 5:55 a.m. EST, actually.
All this shit happening and nobody tried to figure out the sigil yet? Let's do this. If it doesn't work, at least it'll be fun. There is a ground line 12 and a perfectly vertical line 11, like it's representing regular axis, reality itself. The line 3, connected to the big circle, comes from inside the circle, 3, from a smaller line, like it's representing something that came from inside the circle. The line that came from inside the circle goes to the other side of 11 and ends in the outer circle exactly in the point between the middle line, 11, and the diagonal line, 10. The line that come from this point, 4, cross the center of the sigil, goes to the other side in a straight line but doesn't touch the outer circle, 13. At this point, this line joins another line ended in a small line, 5, like 1. So I think this line is coming from whatever the outer circle itself represent. After 4 and 5 join, they go to the other side of the middle line, 11, and end in a smaller circle, 2. But this time, the line ends outside the circle, so I would say this line, 14, is forming the circle from the 3 curves on the left. 2 are almost parallel, 6 and 7, while the middle one, 8, that looks like an arrow, is coming out of this parallel and pointing to the smaller circle, 2. The middle small line ended in 2 smaller lines. 9 looks like a scale, and it is 90 degrees with the diagonal line, 10. The left side end line of 9 is bigger than the right side end line. It's almost like it's shifting the diagonal 10 line anti-clockwise, which is usually not good. I would say Lomack is the small bottom circle. 2. The big upper circle would represent whoever created him, 1. Through the connection with the outer circle, 13. The creator is summoning power from the world, reality or whatever you want to call it, to summon Lomack. If the balance line 9 were not there, the diagonal line 10 would be the same as the vertical. In other words, it would not exist. So the space between the diagonal and the vertical wouldn't either. The line 4 is defined by the middle angle between the diagonal and the vertical. So if there isn't a diagonal, there's no line. 4 lines, 3, 5, 14, are defined by line 4. So if no line diagonal, no lines, 3, 5, 14, either if there's no line, 3, 5, 14. There's no smaller circle, 2 being created. If there's no smaller circle 2, there's no curve being pulled by it, 8. So my theory is, the balance line, 9, is shifting reality for the creator. In this shifted reality space between 10 and 11, he creates Lomack from his self, 1, and from the common reality, 5. And from this common reality, people, 8, summon Lomack and empower it. This shit is some created entity.
Books don't change colors. If magic works, it's not like that. It's subtle and not like D&D. OP probably doesn't know shit about sigils and is trying to create some entity making people believe it's real so it can become real. If I'm right about it, he doesn't know shit and probably just created this without proper preparation. So it will be some raw entity which will be defined by the people who interact with it. I wouldn't summon it, since it's on /x/. There's a big probability some autistic neckbeard with psychological problems summoned it first, and things could get pretty fucked up. And while I'm no expert in magic, I have a feeling creating entities requires a bit more than some boredom and cough syrup.
Yes, probably it didn't work. But if it didn't work, there's no point in trying to summon this shit. If it worked, stay away from it. OP probably doesn't know what he is doing.
Well, do any of us know what we're doing? We're here after all. Might as well go play in this wonderful and terrible field of existence. I want to try this out myself. However, I don't consider myself in any mental shape for ritual work. The most I'm going for is divination and self-empowerment. What do you guys think about ritual work?
I agree. I did a ritual once with sigils. Just used random magic concepts from the internet, and it came out pretty bad. Good thing I learned magic can be real and it changed my vision about the world, so I don't exactly regret doing that, but I never did it again, and if I would research about what I'm messing with before start using unknown rituals from the internet. I don't know. Maybe trying to meditate on the sigil before doing the proper ritual would be a good idea.
He doesn't know what he's doing, but as an experienced mage, I do. I hate to break it to you, but it is the year of the Lord 2015, and you are not a wizard. If you're gonna speak in absolutes, I'm gonna need some sources. That said, I'm not gonna go full her magic don't reel. I'm just saying that when you start talking like you've got some objective empirical facts on your side, then it's time to stop talking. A person might have strange experiences that seem paranormal, but if you say some shit like, "Lowell, you don't know what you're doing in relation to goddamn magic, ghosts, whatever," you just became either a delusional New Age equivalent of a fedora or a seller of woo. There's not a single established rigorous magical practice with empirical results, and when you start acting like there is, you've probably been watching too much Harry Potter or browsing websites with black backgrounds.
I'm not an experienced magician, and I'm not saying so. I just read some stuff, and the only magic thing I did was this ritual I told. Even without being a mage, I know books don't change color by magic. That's just not how magic works. That's RPG wizard bullshit. So why would OP spend his time creating a sigil that seems real and tell a bullshit story to convince people to do rituals? Because he just got some stupid tutorial on how to do tulpas or some shit like that, but doesn't even research enough to know magic doesn't happen in front of your eyes. Also, why do you think he didn't post anything more of his 10K word book or a new song? Because there's no fucking book or song, and if he continues posting song or parts of the book, people will realize it has nothing out of the extraordinary and was not created by some god, in before OP casting fireballs.
Actually, I am OP, though a bit drunk at the moment, Keck, and I've stayed neutral in the discussion after posting my original stuff simply to see what people think. Note that not once did I claim my experience was some kind of objective aspect of nature, in a reality that everyone else can experience. I fully acknowledge that these things may or may not be relevant to anything outside of my own brain case. Neither did I claim that I'm some magician pro. I said in the very first post that I'm not well versed in occultism. I saw the pages of a very peculiar book change colors. That is my only claim, and you can take that as you will. It is also important to consider that I was high at the time, though the book itself is very real, and I took it from the library while sober. As for the document, yeah, I do actually have a bunch of jabberings and various pictographs and things that I find to be kinda strange recorded in a document on my laptop. And reading this thread, people seem to be under the impression that I claimed Lomack is a proactive entity, and that you could just summon him to do cool stuff. I think the stuff posted here is just example, the number of people projecting either wishful thinking or establish dogmas against something depending on which side they're on without applying critical thinking to the subject. But hey, that's the New Age community for you. In fact, I didn't even give the full altar instructions according to what I have in the document, other than giving a basic sacrifice instruction to talk to Lomack. That is a simple prayer ritual, but I haven't actually detailed any esoteric type spells or anything, and only posted one song from the document. So if you read these things I posted and determine that OP is a liar, his magic isn't real, this god is a falsehood, then you haven't been comprehending information very well.
Mind sharing the document with us? Or even an excerpt from it? I'm interested in the gibberish. I may be wrong here, but didn't the Book of Lies come to Alistair through a deity he contacted and proved and showed something hidden in one of the many pages? Perhaps somewhere among the gibberish is the answer. Or could the gibberish be the actual book?
Man, maybe I shouldn't have posted yet because I'm drunk and not ready to act responsibly. To the idea that my story isn't real, I'll say again that I was high. I did in fact possess a book at one point in time, traveled to a cave and experienced some odd happenings. Is there any more to it than that? Who can say? Sorry if I'm not meeting the expected standards of mystique for internet entertainment. I haven't posted the document because up until now I felt that it's irresponsible to do so for several reasons. Maybe when I'm sober I'll realize I'm being a headcase and just post it. If this thread 404s, I'll start a thread with the link, assuming it's actually a good idea. I just feel like putting that kind of thing out there, especially since it's from myself and I don't even completely understand it, is a rash decision. I intentionally posted the altar description and song because I felt they were appropriate and inconsequential. At this time, it's of course understandable for bullshit alarms to start ringing, like it's all just cloak and dagger for a laugh, which is completely reasonable, and if you're so inclined to think so, then I don't blame you. I can only act how I feel is best, and maybe you are right anyway, and it's all just bullshit. Or not. I'm very much against claiming absolutes.
How did you write this book? Automatic writing while high?
Also, no, I wouldn't say automatic writing. I was very much conscious of what I was transcribing, in my opinion, and it made perfect sense to me at the time. It was more a record of things I remembered from the seeming millennia I spent with Lomack, and some parts might have even been incorrectly recorded due to my shitty memory, versus some divinely inspired text.
Taking note of how to make the altar and summon this Lomack. I actually have clay I can make a pot out of here, and probably have one I made at some point sitting around somewhere. My lips have been pretty dry myself, so I can always use lip skin or dead skin from elsewhere, whatever. I could manage it. I don't know where I'd make the altar, but I could probably figure something out. Live about a 5-minute walk to some woods with a creek. It's a bit cold out, but I could manage, and the ground near the creek would probably be soft enough to make the star pretty easy. In short, I'm looking into it. Me again. Did find a clay pot I made, not very big, but doesn't seem like it has to be. I'm going to go out tomorrow maybe and make the star, though I'm not sure I'll have the time to do the actual ritual. OP, if you can give us a better description of how to make the altar, I'd appreciate it. Don't want to go out in the cold and not do it right. I've got a bad knee and the cold bothers it, so I don't want to waste my time. Also, I'm going to try and do this as sober as possible. I may take a pain pill or something for my knee beforehand, but I have a high tolerance, so it shouldn't make me loopy. But if it can't be done sober, maybe it would still be enough. Not sure, but I like my chances. I don't have a video camera or a smartphone, so I can't record it. Sorry. I do have a nice camera though, so maybe I can take some pictures, at least of my altar and things. I can definitely get a notebook and write down my findings. Also studied graphic design, so I could probably sketch out any things I may see if I do manage to speak to this forgotten god. So, going to work on a list of possible questions and write them down in the notebook I'll take. Obviously going to go through this thread for ideas, and will probably share my list before I make an attempt. Not sure I'll get a chance to check them if I do talk to Lomack, but I can at least reread them before I smash the pot. TLDR, hopefully within the week I'll be able to perform the ritual.
Do you have a buddy who could take care of you while you do this? Like someone who can make sure if you slip into a mind-altering state, they can drag your ass out of the cold?
Unfortunately not. I had a falling out with a lot of my friends after high school, and the friends I kept have moved by now. My cousin may be willing to go with me, but he doesn't really believe any of this stuff. So I'm not sure if he would. Also, it snowed today, damn it, so I didn't get to go out and make the star. We have about 3 inches, and I don't know if the snow would affect the altar. I do know that explaining why I'm leaving the house on foot in the snow would be hard to explain. I'm still on it, guys. I just need a good opportunity, I guess. Maybe it would be safe to do in the backyard at night or something. I don't know. I really don't want anyone to show up while I'm working on it or while I'm possibly speaking with Lomack. I really don't want someone to come by while I'm doing this and think I'm a Satanist or something. I'll figure something out.
It sounds familiar to me as well, and was quite surprised it doesn't appear to be a name used by anyone or character. Something it does sound like, though, Moloch, which has many different spellings but usually with MLK in it. He was one of the earliest worshipped gods. A similarity between Lomack and Moloch is the sacrifice of flesh, though Moloch used to have children burnt in a fire for him. I may also add you guys on Skype, though I don't use it very often.
It sounds familiar to me as well, and was quite surprised it doesn't appear to be a name used by anyone or character. Something it does sound like, though, Moloch, which has many different spellings, but usually with MLK in it. He was one of the earliest worshipped gods. A similarity between Lomack and Moloch is the sacrifice of flesh, though Moloch used to have children burnt in a fire for him. A few years later. Maybe some of you remember this. A few years ago, there was some guy posting about this old god who called himself Lomack, according to how OP chose to spell it, who contacted him when he got fucked up on DXM syrup and crashed in a cave in the woods near his house. He had written some kind of manifesto type shit allegedly dictated to him by the deity or whatever. You can find the threads in the archives. Anyway, we had a Skype group going. Some of this is in the threads, but he told us that he went to the cave after he found some random-ass blank book in a library that he said you could only understand if you were high on DXM, and that he planned on copying and putting in libraries across the US. I thought he was a crazy spurg. Spoiler, he was. But some people here were kind of buying it, and people were doing rituals like smashing a blue clay pot on a forearm-length altar made of stone, etc. The rationale behind all this was the Lomack was allegedly a god from before humans had language, like some primitive deity of early Homo sapiens, Homo erectus, or Neanderthals during the Oldowan Stone Tools period, and so on. Apparently what was known about Lomack came from OP's cave sessions where he went to take DXM and would be knocked unconscious, aka pass out LEL. But here's what I remember. Lomack is basically some primitive avatar of humanity, like a prototype idea of humans. His number is 5 after the 5 digits on a human hand, the 5 points of the body, head plus appendages, etc., and that his color is blue. OP said in his visions Lomack was roughly the shape of a stone man, like some prehistoric carving a person, with a blue, smooth, stone-like body with no features besides slight indentations where eyes should be. This comment is getting too long for one post. I'll post more if anybody gives a shit. It started getting weird with the dude's reported adventures in the Skype group. And no one cared. The end.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.